Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
If you've been with me these last few weeks, you know that we've been digging deep into one of the biggest truths about trauma-impacted relationships. Disconnection isn't the real problem. Dysregulation is. When your nervous system is overwhelmed, even love can feel threatening. Tiny misunderstandings explode. Harmless comments feel like attacks. And two good people can suddenly feel miles apart. If you've ever thought, we were fine 5 minutes ago, what just happened? This episode is for you. Today, we're taking that conversation even deeper. I'm sitting down with Erin Smith, someone who understands transitions, not just academically, but intimately. For over a decade, Erin has helped Division I athletes, executives, and leadership teams navigate massive identity shifts through her signature framework, the transition effect. She teaches people how to carry the best of who they were into what they're becoming without losing themselves in the chaos. But Erin also brings something profoundly personal to this conversation. She's married to retired Navy SEAL William Branham, who joined me back in episode 41. In that interview, William talked openly about how the hardest mission he ever faced wasn't on the battlefield, it was retirement. The identity loss, the emotional unraveling, the dysregulation that showed up in every corner of their relationship. But today, Erin gives us the other side of that story, the partner's side, the side that most people never see. What I love most about this episode is how real we get. We talk about the moments that almost broke them, the patterns they refuse to keep repeating, and the specific tools they now use to calm reactivity before it hijacks the relationship. You'll hear Erin talk about ego flares and how naming them changed everything, the snake versus stick moment that helps you pause before reacting, how to set boundaries without abandoning yourself, and what real emotional safety looks like in a trauma healing marriage. So if you're tired of walking on eggshells, if you're exhausted from being the one who always keeps the peace, if you want real strategies, not just wishful thinking, this conversation will feel like a lifeline. And if you stay to the end, Erin shares one shift that rebuilt their connection in a way neither of them thought was possible. This episode is raw, honest, and full of hope, and I know it's going to change someone's relationship today. Let's get into that interview. For being on the show. I just want to thank you because I interviewed your now husband, right?
Yep.
William, and he was on the show. And I was like, I absolutely love this interview. I want to talk to more people. And he said, you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to my, I think you guys were married at the time I interviewed. When I first met him, you guys weren't, but he's like, you need to meet my wife and have her on the show,
Aww.
Which is so sweet. So thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
And my first thing is I just want to learn just a little bit more about you because it sounds like you've spent your career helping others navigate transitions.
Yes.
And now you're in quite a few transitions. So tell me just a little bit about that.
Yeah, transitions. So let me start by telling you when I became obsessed with transitions. It was actually during my master's degree program for sports psychology. It's actually a dual program. It's counseling and sports psychology with a focus on sports psychology. And what I learned when I was in that program one of the things that I learned that was so fascinating to me was what happens to athletes when they get to the end of their career. And, we know that athletes, their careers tend to end early in life. They still have, maybe half their life or more left to live, and they have so much more to give. But they age out, or they have a career-ending injury, or they can't play their sport forever, right? The body won't allow it. So what happens to them when their career ends, when they have been spending their entire life focused on nothing but their sport? They've maybe been playing it since they were little, right? They've been playing it
It's
through
their
high school.
identity,
It's their whole identity is
right?
wrapped up
It's
in
their
their
whole
sport.
identity. Yeah.
And how difficult it is to make that transition from what is taking up all of your time, all of your energy, all of your focus, and now it's done. What do you do now, right? How do you fill the time? But more importantly, what is your identity now? And when people lose their identity like that, it can be really traumatizing and be very hard to figure out how do I fill the gap? What do I do now? Who am I now? And, that has now followed me through all of my career, and I see it everywhere, including with my husband, William, and his military background. He was a Navy SEAL for 26 years. That's a long time, from age 19, right? He's a kid when he got into that, and dedicated his entire life. His whole identity is wrapped up in that, in his mission, in his purpose, with his team. And then all of a sudden one day you retire and that's gone. Now what do you do? What is your identity? What is your new mission? What is your new purpose? Who is on your team now? So
he was really open. I mean, he said basically, I believe that was the hardest battle he had to face.
Yep. And
was when his career in the military was over.
Exactly. Yep. It's such a massive transition. And, I hear about this on big scales like that, but also on smaller scales. Like when clients of mine, I work with women, helping them to navigate male dominated industries. So I'm helping them with a lot of different things, including where they are in their career, advancing it, how to do that successfully in a male dominated space, and what happens when they want to make a role change. Maybe they're getting promoted. Maybe they want to leave their organization and go to a new one. Maybe they want a career change altogether. How do they navigate that transition? So it comes up all over the place.
Let's talk about some of your personal transitions.
Sure.
That you're in right now. Newly married.
Yep.
New business, and now working together.
Yes. So when we first met, I actually started working with William professionally first, because I was looking to expand my business. So I have my private coaching practice called Driven Beyond Excellence. And I've been doing for the last 8 years a lot of one-on-one coaching. I also do some team building activities and group coaching. Mostly I've been doing one-on-one coaching. So I wanted to expand. I'm ready to broaden my offerings. And I also want to continue helping women navigate male dominated industries. And I think I need a male counterpart, because there's so many women for women type businesses out there that are amazing and awesome. Women need to support women. Absolutely. And I thought that I need to differentiate myself somehow. And so I wanted to bring on a male counterpart, someone who could, because I'm working with women in male dominated industries, someone who has the male perspective and who also has the emotional intelligence to be supportive of women and show women what good male support looks like. Because, you hear a lot of, man hating going on out there, right? Like, I don't want to work with men. I don't want to, there's so many challenges for a woman working with men. But in reality, there is just good leaders and bad leaders. It's not necessarily if you're a man or a woman. And so I was looking for William, so to speak. I was looking for this person who fit this description, who has had leadership experience and is interested in this area of, helping people perform better, improving business performance and, people and their performance, optimizing human performance. And so when I met him at a public speaking class, I was like, oh, perfect. He fits this profile. Let me go talk to him. And he's an entrepreneur. He has his own businesses too. So this is great. And so we started out professionally working together. I was learning a lot from him. He was connecting me to people. We were talking about how we might work together. And then about 6 months after we met, that was when I started. I was actually going through my own transition personally at the time. I left a 10-year relationship to another man who I thought I was going to grow old with, someone who I thought was going to be my forever person. And it ultimately didn't work out. And so when I was working with William, he then kind of became my friend and confidant through that period. He was sort of, because he's such a supportive person, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work with him, because that's what I'm looking for, someone who's supportive, someone with that emotional intelligence and empathy, who could be understanding. And he's a coach himself, so he was kind of coaching me when I was going through this transition, which is if anyone's been through that kind of, it wasn't a divorce because I wasn't married, but it felt like one. Like, I was with him for 10 years. I helped him raise his son since age 8. Our lives were very intertwined, and I had to basically start over. I was starting from scratch, and it was terrifying. I was very grief stricken. It was a lot of grief to manage while I'm also trying to build my business at the same time. And so William was like, he was kind of a rock for me. He helped me through it. He would, make me feel less alone, because he's been through a divorce before himself. So he was very understanding. And so we shared a lot. A lot personally on that level. And so all of a sudden at one point, like, I finally started, because I was like, I'm not dating anybody. This is like, I'm going through this horrible breakup.
I'm never dating again.
Ever again.
Right?
It's so awful. Yeah. Forget it. No,
this
is too painful. I'm not going to go through this ever again. But then I started to come out of it. I started to, regain my self-worth and my own grip on reality. And, I started to feel safe again. I started to feel emotionally safe again. And so I started to look at him differently, because I was like, wow, he has been this amazing support for me without any question, right? Without any expectation of anything in return. He's just giving, right? He's just giving me his ear, lending me his support. And I have no idea like what his story is. So one day I'm like, okay, I guess I could see myself dating him. He's cute. I like what I like how he's been helping me. Let me just ask him, like, what's your situation? So I like took a leap one day and just put myself out there. And lucky for me, he was like, yeah, I am interested. And
Aww.
he was kind of also going through his own relationship ending, which I hadn't known about up until that point. And he starts sharing with me, right, that he's going through what he's going through with his relationship. And so then I became a support for him. And so we kind of like were supporting each other through the end of these, very meaningful and important relationships in our lives, and being a support system for one another. And that was the beginning of our relationship. So, we started out not really knowing if we were going to be anything more than that, just supporting one another through the end of our respective relationships. But the more we got to know each other, and the more, we started to understand, who we are together, we decided that, yeah, this makes sense. Like, I think we should give this a go, and like be intentional. And, he had everything I was looking for, and I had everything that he was looking for. And I was, after that horrible breakup that I had gone through, at first I swore I'd never date again. But then after I got over that, I'm like, no, love. I want love in my life. I became super, super intentional about what I want from a relationship, and who I will be in that relationship, and who I want the other person to be, and what I will no longer tolerate in my life. Because there was a lot that I was putting up with in the last relationship that I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so, the more I got to know William, the more I got to realize, like, he's that guy. He's the guy he understands what I'm looking for, what I won't put up with, what I'm expecting from a relationship. And he was ready for it. So we were like super intentional and very clear and like open with one another about what we were looking for and what we hoped to achieve with our next relationship.
And William was pretty open, about how he had to do some healing for himself
based off of some of the trauma that
Yes.
he'd been through.
Yep.
And then I'm a partner of someone who also did that work. So I'd love to get your perspective, on how you guys have been able to work with that. With, knowing that there's certain coping mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
that trauma survivors develop that might cause, some issues in their relationships. How did you guys, kind of work with that?
That is something that we have both been working on together, because he definitely had that reactivity early on. And that was something that bothered me, because that was in my last relationship as well. And so, while I wanted to be understanding and patient with him, I was also very firm in my boundaries of, this is the behavior, like when it would show up, when I would start to experience that defensiveness from him or that kind of reactivity. I recognized it like so clearly, because I had done so much work from my past relationship on, okay, why did I accept that in my past relationship? And why did I do that myself in my past relationship? And how do I heal that within myself so that I don't show up reactively to someone else's reactivity, right? Because that's what happens, right? If someone is reactive to you, sometimes that will cause you to then react, because it's very emotional, it's very powerful, and hard to stay calm when the other person is not. Like when the other person is like, coming at you with all these emotions, it's like, oh my gosh, stop. And so I had done a lot of work myself on, how do I remain calm in those situations? And then how do I put up a boundary that doesn't dismiss him and what he's going through, right? Because I care about him. He's having this reaction, not because of something that I did, but because of something that I did that reminds him of something from his past, right? So I just did something that's conjuring up some kind of past trauma, and he's reacting to that. And that has nothing to do with me. So I had to learn how to depersonalize it for myself, right? This is not about me. He's not upset with me. He's going through something right now. And so I have choices here, right? I can either engage and get into it, right? And meet him right there and be just as reactive. And then boom, usually that starts a fight, and that makes things worse. That's option one. Option two is I can run away from it. I can say, nope, I'm not going to deal with this right now. You go over there, I'm going to go over here. And that presents a different kind of problem, right? That's the fight or flight response,
Avoiding.
right? Avoiding, exactly,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Or I can regulate myself first, take that step
take a
back
break.
and realize this is not me, this is him. And either ask him, is there something I can do to help you right now? Or do you need some time to process what's going on and calm down? And then maybe we can come back and talk about it when you're in a different place, because I can sense that you're in this heightened state. And we have different names for it too. We'll call it different things to kind of not escalate it any further, right? Because if you're oh, you're being defensive right now, that doesn't really work.
That rarely works.
It doesn't work.
Right. Can you think of some? Because I love this, because so many of women are in this situation and they're like, I've tried everything in the moment.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we all have. So I love giving people ideas of things that they can try in the moment.
Yeah.
Do you have any pearls?
In the moment? I can give you one that is top of mind right now that a good therapist gave to us, and she just called it ego flares. She's like, this is just an ego flare, and that's it. Because our ego is here to protect us, right? Our ego is here to make sure that we're safe, to make sure that we're, not going to get hurt. Our ego wants us to not get hurt, right? So when we see things that are threatening to us, our ego will jump into action, and sometimes in a reactive way, and be like, no, stop, right? And that can show up as defensiveness or anger or that reactivity. And
Mhm.
so if you call it that, if you're just like, oh, it's just your ego is just flaring up to protect you right now. While you're having this ego flare, I'm going to go over here, or you tell me what would help you, help you regulate right now. Do you need me to breathe with you through the ego flare? Or do you need me to go in the other room and maybe you go meditate and do your own breathing over there? So ego flare is kind of like the code word for it. Like, oh, we're having an ego flare right now. And that kind of, it's not a magic like pill
No.
by any means, but it definitely takes it down a notch from the like, oh, you're just dismissing me, or you just don't care. Like, I'm angry and it's your fault and blah,
Oh, you're
blah,
just
blah.
Yeah.
You're just going to run away, or
Right.
you're going to fight. Right. So
Yeah.
it identifies what's going on in the moment. And over time, because this takes practice, like it didn't work the first time, it didn't work the second time, but once we started to talk about it in calmer times and realize, oh no, this is not me trying to dismiss you. This is not me trying to get away from what's going on. This is me trying to solve the problem with you by asking you, what do you need in this moment? Like, what's going to help you get to a different place after the ego flare, so that we can talk about it, so that we can actually connect on it and not argue about it or butt heads or, whatever. So yeah.
And I love what you said about talking again about it when when you're calm, right?
Yeah.
When the ego flare has subsided,
right?
When that has subsided, come
Yeah.
back to it.
Yeah.
Because I think so often when you were talking about the first thing that you could do, which is get engaged in it, right?
Yep.
Get engaged in it too. Then all of a sudden, when you come back to it, all you're talking about is all the things that were said post.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And you never get to, okay, so we need to fix that,
Right.
right? We need to work on that. And one of the things that was really helpful in our relationship is this a snake or a stick?
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah. So meaning, if you're on the trail and you are hyper alert to everything around you, which we know that trauma survivors are, that if you look down and you see something that looks like a snake, you're going to freak out, right?
Yes, right.
But you're also going to freak out if you see a stick that looks like a snake. You're going to have the same reaction.
Yes.
So the idea is to take the pause, the ego break or whatever, and be like, is this a stick? Or is that really a snake?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So that's another one, or a bear and a stump. Kind of the same.
I like that. Yeah. Is this
same
a real
technique.
Is this a real threat or not?
Yeah. Is it a real threat, or is it, I interpreted it as a real threat?
Yes. I love
need to calm down. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I love the ego flare too. Yeah, that's great. But I think you nailed it on the head. What I've found helps people so much is, being able to identify it in the moment, try to diffuse it, but then come back and be able to talk about it, like how to do it differently in the future. Yep. Oh, so good. Such good pearls. Thank you for that.
Of course. I'm going to remember that snake and stick one too, because that's such a good differentiator. Like, is this a real threat or not? And because then you can decide what to do about it. If it's a real threat, then
if it's a real threat. And sometimes things are snake to your partner that may not be to you, and that's okay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So many great techniques to talk about. Yes. And so, so you've had this transition of marriage. Is that like the main communication thing that you guys have been working through, do you think, to differentiate from your previous relationship to things you didn't want to bring into this one?
Banging your head against the wall, trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma, it doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here?
Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together.
I would say for me, it's boundaries. It's being good at not abandoning myself. And I'm going to say that again. A boundary is meant to not abandon yourself. Because I used to allow things to happen and not set boundaries because I didn't know how to. And B, I wanted to keep the relationship. And so I would sacrifice myself and my own values without even realizing it. I would just be like, okay, that's no big deal. I'll let that happen. Or, I'd get upset about something, but then I wouldn't actually follow through, or I'd try to set a boundary, but I wouldn't follow through on it because I didn't want to lose the relationship. And so I was constantly abandoning myself. And so coming into this new relationship, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't putting up boundaries just for the sake of putting up boundaries, right? Just because now I know how to do it, but doing it in line with what I considered to be my self-worth and my self-respect. So how do I set a boundary that allows him to be him, right? Because he's a good person. He's not trying, to do anything to hurt me. Because sometimes there is an interpretation of that too, right? Like, you're doing this on purpose to hurt me, but it's really not. Like, again, it's not about me. It's something they're going through. But for him, he has that reactivity that, like, I jump to defensiveness. I'm interpreting this as you're doing, something that you're not, but I'm interpreting it as you're doing something, you're dismissing me, or you don't care, or you are, telling me I'm dumb, or I'm not good enough, or whatever the interpretation is. So yeah, those are, I would say, the two things that we're constantly trying to work on. And really at the heart of all of that is self-regulation. Like, how do you get to that point where you can actually identify, is this a snake, or is
this a snake or a bear? Yeah. Is it a snake or a bear? Snake or a stick?
Yeah.
Either or, whatever. But
right?
I know it's so key. It's so key, the regulation. And if one person can do it, right, then it's easier for the other person.
I think so. So. It does become difficult. I will say it is challenging to be the one who is trying to regulate. Right. Yeah. If you feel like there is resentment that kind of grows. And I'm very vocal about it too. I'm like, listen, this has been happening a lot lately. We need to talk to me about this. Like, what can we do? Because I love you. I want to be with you. I also need to not feel like I'm the only one who's constantly having to de-escalate the situation and regulate, right? And
I think that follow-up conversation is really important for that. To not just get through the moment and diffuse and then push it under the rug. I think that's where the resentment starts to build. But you actually do talk about that incident and how you want to improve it together, and not so that one person doesn't feel like they're the one doing it all the time.
Yeah. And so my challenge with that is to approach that. I've had to learn, how do I approach that conversation without setting him off? Because if you do it the wrong way, anyone would get defensive. Would be like, because they're scared of losing the relationship. They're scared of disappointing you. He doesn't want to disappoint me. He doesn't want me to be upset.
And they feel bad.
Of course, there's guilt associated with it. They're like, or shame, totally. So that has been a huge challenge for me. Like, especially if I'm upset and I'm like, oh, this has got to stop, right? Like, you get that thought of like, when is this going to end? waiting for the right moment. And part of that right moment is not just what mood is he in, but what mood am I in? Am I in a place where I can say this without bringing the anger or the judgment into it? Because those two things have no place in the conversation of like, hey, this is not working for me. What can we do? Or what can I do to help you manage these reactions? Or, how can we do this? How can we work on this together? Because ultimately they've got to do it themselves, right? I've got to do that myself. I can't rely on him to help regulate me. That's not going to work. And vice versa. He can't rely on me. There are things that I can learn, the signs, right? I've learned the signs, and that's when I see the signs, man, I will get right to maybe now's not the time to have this conversation.
And the sooner you do it, the better.
Oh, right? Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. The sooner, no, don't even try.
The sooner you stop that, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But to have,
I've even found things on where to be, right? Like I used to be like, we need to sit down and talk. Oh no, I don't do that anymore, right? I try to be doing something else.
Yes. Oh, you've got to
whether it's go for a walk or be while we're doing the dishes, it seems like that tends to not, but they'll put those defensive mechanisms into place right away. Again, good time, being in a good headspace. Yeah.
Gotta be a good time. Gotta be a good headspace. And the way you enter into the conversation will dictate the way it goes. If you start with, something that
we have to work on this, right?
Boy. I have to
this really needs to change.
Yeah. I really didn't like the way you talked to me the other day. Oh, that's not going to go well. No. So finding those really interesting ways to lead into the conversation. I kind of turn it into a game for myself. I challenge myself to do it because it's not easy. And especially when you're upset about it or you're scared, you're like, I don't want to have to end this relationship, but if this keeps going this way, what am I supposed to do? And so that makes me scared. And so I have to make sure I'm not coming at that from a scared place either. I'm like, okay, whatever happens. I'm going to be okay because I've been through hell already. So I know that I can survive it. But I'm going to approach this conversation from a place of love. I'm going to approach this conversation from a place of, hey, I'm really concerned about you, or I'm concerned about us, or, bringing it up in a more lighthearted way. Like, hey, how did you feel about that conversation that we had the other day?
Yeah. One of my big go-tos is I've been thinking a lot about such and such.
I like that one.
And starting it out like that, to know that you're being thoughtful, and it puts me in a good place, right? Where me too, I've been thoughtful about this, and how I want to say it.
Yeah. I set the stage too, sometimes very, very, matter of factly too. Like if I am worried about having the conversation, I will start it out by saying hey, I really, I want to talk to you about something, but I'm worried that you're going to get upset about it. Can we?
That's one of my techniques too. Tools is to name what I think the reaction is going to be. To set the stage. I know you're gonna think I'm being picky, or I know you're gonna think this.
You're probably tired of hearing about this, but
those things are they also put you at a even playing field. Very good tip. I love it. I do want to touch on boundaries a little bit, because that is so also a key element, I think, that everybody needs to do better, right? Tell me what, how you've been able to incorporate that, in your relationship that you feel good about.
Well, first I had to get to know what those boundaries are. What is it that I'm willing to tolerate, and what am I not willing to tolerate? What are your deal breakers, essentially? And being super honest about what those are, and being willing to walk away if those things are there, because that's the part that I used to not understand, right? I used to think, oh, so if I just say, if you do this again, I'm leaving, right? And that's supposed to work. Well, if you don't actually leave, the person's never going to take you seriously again, right?
Ever.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so I had to be very upfront with William in the beginning of our relationship with like, look, this is what I experienced in my past relationship. And I'm telling you right now, I am not going to allow it to play out the way that it did ever again. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to raise my hand early when I start to detect the signs that this is happening. And that way, as long as you're okay with getting into it with me, like, you know, not avoiding it, having the difficult conversation, then we'll be able to smooth it out before it becomes a massive problem, right? So I had to ask him up front, like, are you okay with that? Like, this is a contract that we're entering into, essentially, right? This is what I need. Are you willing to do that? And so, and I'm constantly checking in with him on that too. I'm like, look, I know, you know, we've talked about this before, right? Like if you're setting the stage for the conversation, we've talked about this before, you're probably tired of hearing it. But again, this is just me like saying, I'm noticing this and this is what I've experienced in the past. And so I'm wondering, like, is this a pattern that's going to continue, or can we nip it in the bud now? Are you willing to talk this out with me and not let it get swept under the rug? So I will like set those boundaries for myself. What am I willing to tolerate? What am I not willing to tolerate? And then what are the signs of those things that I'm not willing to tolerate? And is my partner willing to address those things with me early on rather than waiting until, you know, it becomes a mountain? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so key because I think that sometimes we just get so in survival mode and
Yeah.
terrified and scared and lonely that we
Exactly.
do put up with things that, you know, we never would
Normally not.
if
Yeah.
we normally wouldn't. And I do know, you know, it can be done even if you've gone down a road that you don't like. Boundaries can
Yep.
still be said, but people can't hold to a boundary if they don't know what it is.
Exactly.
And that
Yeah.
starts with you knowing what that is.
Exactly. You have to know what that is, and you have to be able
Yeah.
to recognize it when it's happening.
Yes.
And yeah, so checking in with yourself first, like what is it, you know, what am I willing to do, not willing to do, and then being aware, super aware, and willing to address it when it might seem scary or hard. And yeah, not being afraid of if this doesn't work out. So like I've turned it into relationships are not meant to last forever no matter what. Like it would be ideal, it would be nice if like when we said those vows, we were like, yep, forever no matter what. It's not no matter what. It's no matter what, as long as we are respecting ourselves, respecting each other, and we have love and connection. Otherwise, you're just, what is the point? Like you're just gonna, you know, drive each other nuts and burn the relationship to the ground eventually.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, things do need to get better. You
You have to.
you need to
Yeah.
get better and evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, both people. Thank you so much for that. That will be is so helpful for people. I know it will be because I know so many women who are trying to get real things that they can start doing, right? To create more peace. And I'm just interested, one of my last questions, because this has been so wonderful, but what does peace look like for you now, both in your marriage and the way that you help others?
Well, peace in our marriage is about being open and honest with each other. So the more that we are willing to take the pain that we're feeling, right? Because life does not exist without pain. Pain is going to show up in one way or another. But when it does, how are you dealing with it? How are you moving through that pain? And then how do you move through that together? So knowing that you're two individuals and you're going to experience pain as an individual, and that's going to then might show up and reflect back on the other person and cause that, you know, relationship dynamic to flare up, the ego flare, right? Recognizing where you begin and end and where he begins and ends, and then where your relationship meets in the middle. When we can have those conversations, like I said, in a place of, you know, when we're calm and when we're ready, and we're reminding ourselves why we're having these conversations, because not because we want to fight, not because I want to criticize you, not because I want to control you or change you, but because all I want to do is connect with you. And there's something in the way right now. So can we talk about what's in the way? I want to be on your side and I want you to be on my side. And that's the goal, always the goal. I love you. I'm not here to criticize you. I'm here to connect with you. So that is what peace looks like in our relationship. When we come back down to like, what is this all for? This is all for connection. This is all for love. Like, this is all for us to build something cool together. And we can't do that when we're disconnected. So yeah, that's what peace looks like for us.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
it's amazing when we can have those conversations. Like when he realizes like, oh, she's not here to, you know, get mad at me for what I said the other day. It's not about that. Or it's not about, you know, she's trying to tell me I can't do what I want to do, or vice versa. Right. It's not about that. It's about finding that connection and getting whatever barrier is in the way out of the way. Because we both want that, right? He always wants that. If I'm like, yeah, I just want to connect with you. That's all I want. I want to be next to you.
Be on a team,
I
same
want to be
team.
next to you. Just like,
Mhm.
but I can't be next to you right now because you've got an ego flare going on. You've got the
Right. And then knowing when you don't want to be next to each other, right?
Exactly, right? Like, so like, can I come sit next to you? Like, let me sit next to you, right? And, you know, starting from a place of reminding each other that that's what it's all about. It's all about connection. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to give people hope, right? I want to give these women that might be at where you were, right? At the end of your last relationship and like, oh my gosh, I don't think I want to do this again because I don't know if it's possible. What would you tell that woman? What would you tell that woman?
I would tell that woman that the strength that you need comes from within you. It does not come from a man, and it does not come from your mom or your sister or your friends or anything else in your life. No one is here to save you. No one is here to make you feel comfortable. No one is here to make you feel loved. That is up to you. Safety, like what we were talking about in the beginning, like finding that safety, especially after in the middle of a transition, when you've left a relationship or you've left, you know, whatever your transition is, whatever change you're going through, it's going to be painful, but that's also an opportunity for growth. But recognize that no one's coming to save you. No, it's not up to your husband. It's not up to your partner. You can't rely on them. And the more that you try to rely on them, the worse it's going to get for you. So if you can, like I said, separate, you are an individual and he's an individual, and then you come together as two whole individuals, you have to recognize that the safety, you provide that yourself. The love, you provide that yourself. The, you know, that safety net that you're looking for, if you're like, oh, well, I don't want to leave him because it's scary to be alone, that safety net has to come from you. He's not your safety net. Your marriage is not your safety net. It's just something that you're building together. You have to provide your own safety net. If I can, like, I need to scream that from the rooftops because that was what made my, the end of that other relationship so unbelievably painful, because I was expecting him to provide safety and love and all of those things. And so when he was gone, I felt empty, and that was scary and painful. And then I had to realize, okay, this is what this means to be there for yourself. This is what this means to not be afraid to have the difficult conversations in a relationship, because you know that you're going to be okay on your own, because nothing's permanent, right? Like even if it's not, we're not talking about like, oh, ending the relationship. I don't want to end he could like die tomorrow, right? Like something, you get hit by a bus, whatever, like hopefully not, but you know, nothing is permanent. And so you have to provide that safety for yourself, because if he's not there or the marriage is not there, and you're relying on that, that doesn't build a healthy marriage, first of all, but it also doesn't build a healthy mindset, within yourself. So trusting yourself, believing in yourself, knowing that you are going to be there no matter what for yourself is the way to go.
And William talked about that as well, that he did that work too.
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't love somebody else if I didn't, you know, love myself in a healthy way.
Yep.
And so you both were able to do that work and then come together.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. And I'm always so like, we're always each other's biggest cheerleaders too. Like when he does something like something hard, which comes from an ego flare, right? Like if he goes away from an ego flare and then he comes back and he either apologizes or tells me like in a vulnerable way, like, oh, this is where that was coming from. Here's what was going on with me. I will do my very, very best to cherish that, to hold that, to reflect that back to him. Like, wow, babe, I'm so proud of you for doing that. That must have been so hard. Like that, I can see that that was really hard for you. And I just want you to know, like, I love you so much for doing that. Cause like, I know what it's like.
That is connection.
Yeah, exactly.
That is real connection.
Yeah. Supporting one another.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad. I love that you're doing this because people need to see these stories, how they play out, because sometimes it does feel hopeless. Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to manage all of this?
I've tried everything and nothing seems to be working, right? I mean, so many. And so that's why the more we can talk about it, the more that we can make it better. We can't talk about what we just keep hiding. So thank you so much for going there with me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, what a amazing interview with Erin. But before we wrap up today, I hope you heard from this interview just how much more control you actually have in a relationship that can feel completely out of control. And I want to leave you with the real deal, my 3 biggest takeaways I hope you carry with you after this conversation with Erin. Number 1, you have choices in how you respond. This is one of the most empowering truths that Erin shared today. When someone you love is dysregulated, overwhelmed, reactive, defensive, it's easy to feel trapped, like your only options are to match their intensity, shut down, or walk away hurting. But you have more agency than you think. You can breathe, you can pause, you can step out of this pattern instead of being pulled into it, and you can ask yourself, is this just a snake or is it a stick? And from that calmer place, you can choose the response that protects your peace instead of the one that keeps repeating the same cycle. That's the real deal. Even in the hardest moments, you are not powerless. You always have choices, and those choices can shift the entire dynamic. Number 2, it takes practice. Healing isn't neat. It isn't instant. And as Erin said, the tools they are using now, naming ego flares, pausing before reacting, coming back later to repair, they didn't work the first time or even the second time either. Because learning a new way of relating takes repetition. It takes trying again and again after messy attempts. It takes showing up even when it feels awkward or vulnerable. For Erin and William, regulation became a skill. It wasn't a switch. Consistency is what softened the edges. Practice is what built safety. Practice is what turned reactivity into connection. And that's the real deal. And number 3, boundaries are bridges, not walls. Erin said this so clearly, and it's something so many women need to hear. A boundary isn't a threat. It isn't punishment. And it isn't shutting someone out. A boundary is you refusing to abandon yourself again. It's saying, I want closeness, but not at the cost of my peace. I want connection, but not if I have to disappear to keep it. Healthy boundaries don't block love, they guide it. So if you're listening right now and realizing that you've been carrying the weight of the world or feel exhausted from trying to keep the peace, or wondering if real connection is possible for you, it is. You deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve a relationship where both people get to grow. And if today's conversation resonated with you, I want you to go back and listen to my 2 previous episodes where I break down exactly how dysregulation shows up in relationships and the unhealthy cycles it creates without you even realizing it. These episodes will make today's insights land even deeper. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Erin for sharing so openly and courageously. And we will see you next time on Love and Trauma, the Real Deal. Until then, take a breath, give yourself grace, and remember, regulation is the path back to connection.
All right, that's a wrap for today on Love and Trauma, the Real Deal. Big thanks to my guests for sharing their insights. Couldn't have done it without you. Now, for those of you looking to take this journey further, I've got something special. Head to my website to grab Real Tactics, Real Healing, a survivor's playbook for navigating a relationship with a trauma survivor. It's packed with everything you need to know, do, and say to navigate the emotional minefield, find your balance, and regain your self-worth and happiness.